Hello, welcome to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker, a real estate investor, showing you how you can own a home or invest in one. Today, I'm going to be discussing the differences between a lease option versus a lease purchase versus owner financing versus contract for deeds. Please keep in mind that these are not legal in every state, and the process is also different from city to city, from county to county. So check with a local lawyer first. Don't depend too heavy on the internet or legal sites because they don't update their information often enough on these particular cases. With the lease option, the tenant owner decides if they want to buy the property. They get to sign a piece of paper called an option. And there's also an option fee, which is non-refundable. The tenant buyer does all of the maintenance, not the owner. The owner keeps the title. Typically, a portion of the rent goes towards down payment or closing costs, but not all the time. It depends on the agreement. Late payments are normally set at a certain amount and do not increase. If things don't work out between the tenant buyer and the owner, there's an eviction. Lease purchase, on the other hand, the landlord owner decides if they want to sell to the tenant buyer or not. They sign a contract of sale. The tenant buyers do all of the maintenance. The landlord keeps the title. Late payments are normally set at a certain amount and also do not increase. In some states, there's an eviction, but in some other states, there's actually a foreclosure process that happens. With owner finance, you are the bank. The tenant buyer gets the title. If they are late after a certain period, you can increase the amount of the late payment. For example, you can say the first 5 days, there's a 10% late penalty. After the 10th day, increase it to 20. On the 30th day, then you want to check in with your lawyer to see how much to charge for a late penalty, if that amount is even regulated, and then next you want to proceed with foreclosure. Lastly, you have the contract for deed. This is an installment land contract. That's the other name for it. The seller keeps the title to the property as security until the balance is paid by the buyer. The tenant is removed again through foreclosure. So let's look at the similarities. Normally, these contracts last 3 to 5 years. In Texas, it's 1 year, but some parts have outlawed it altogether. A down payment is required. After the term, the tenant buyer refinances the landlord out. Everything is negotiable. So if the tenant buyer still wants it and you get along with them, you can create another contract increasing the price of the property. All of them are good for those with bad credit, divorce, felons, or whoever it is that wants a second chance in life. It's also good for those who want to test drive a house or a neighborhood. You can put a credit counseling requirement on these if you want to. It's not necessary, but it kind of shows whether or not they are gonna be of good standing or not. Discrimination, mind you, does not apply with felons in this particular case, but you may want to factor in what the crime is that they went in for and how long they have been out of jail. Because recently we've seen a whole lot of people who went to jail and served time for a crime that they didn't commit. So when selecting tenants, careful of those who have been evicted. They may be troublesome and not all that serious about getting their life together. It's really a gamble when you choose one of them. Make sure they understand what the contract entails. Explain it to them and invite them to ask you questions. Because you don't want later on down the road they say, you know, they didn't understand this, they didn't understand that. As a matter of fact, it's good to put things in writing and to document it in your calendar that you had this meeting with this person and you spoke on this day about this particular issue, whatever it was. These are the questions that you answered. Now, it's good to give them the name of the contractors that you use, because not all contractors are good, unfortunately. And they may get somebody who doesn't know what the hell they're doing and mess up the property. And that'll be a headache. Next, the price of the property can be a little bit higher than what it actually is. After all, it may appreciate for more than 3 to 5 years anyway. And normally these people don't exactly have good credit. So you normally can get away with that. Again, check with your lawyer. If the tenant buyer decides not to buy, they need to move out, and the money is not refundable. And lastly, these typically work best with one-family homes, not multifamily, and definitely not with apartment buildings. Well, folks, that's all I have for you tonight. Hopefully, the information will inspire you to reboot your mind, reset your focus, and make smart financial real estate moves. Feel free to pass it along. Remember, each one reach one, teach one. Bye for now. Until next time, have a good night.